Hey, what's up, everybody? First and foremost, I guess I better make sure before we get too far into this that we're actually live. Um, just want to make sure that Facebook is behaving, YouTube's behaving. Looks like YouTube is good. Whether or not Facebook wants to do its thing, well, looks like I'm live. So let's get this thing underway. Um, First off, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me tonight for the encore cover reveal of Seams of the Infinite. We're live on YouTube and Facebook, and I really appreciate taking your time to be here tonight. It's Thursday night. We're getting close to Friday, a little closer to the weekend, but I want to talk a little bit about the book. Thank some people who helped to make it happen, reveal the cover, and then probably hang around for a little bit to chat with anyone who wants to stay. Um, Before I get into the story, I want to start by thanking a few people. First, Christian Rauh. Christian, he's been there. He's been with me for a lot of projects. Helps me with graphics, video, audio, design, tech help, problem solving, you name it. Whenever I have an idea that feels half informed, impossible to explain, Christian helps me give it some shape. The cover you're about to see exists because of his talent, his patience. Christian, thank you for always showing up. I'm thinking about you right now as the storm's getting crazy up in Washington. Also, want to thank my ARC readers. Early readers are everything. You gave your time, attention, your honest reactions to this story before it ever reached the public. And that support matters more than most people realize. And I'm very grateful to each one of you. Also, want to thank Hope Madden, crazy lady, for writing the foreword for Seams of the Infinite. Hope's been a source of inspiration for me for a long time. Her voice and perspective, they add weight, clarity to this book, and I'm honored to have her open the story for me. I also would like to acknowledge the Dock Ellis Foundation and Jasmine Ellis. The story touches real history and real legacy, and Jasmine supported this project. And if I did not have her blessing, I would not feel right releasing this book. That trust means a great deal to me. So, Jasmine, thank you very much. Now, let me talk a little bit about what Seams of the Infinite actually is. The story is inspired by one of the strangest and most mythic moments in American sports history. Dock Ellis pitched a no-hitter while high on LSD. That fact alone already feels unreal, but this novella asks a different question. What if Doc was not just hallucinating? What if he was seeing something real? What if he was seeing something beneath the seams of reality itself? Seams of the Infinite retells that game through the lens of cosmic horror. It draws heavily from the storytelling tradition of the Twilight Zone. Rod Serling is an all-time hero of mine, and his influence is all over the story in the way it blends morality, surrealism, and American truth. It also lives in the wider tradition of cosmic horror. Lovecraft, not a hero of mine, but his shadow is unavoidable when you talk about the vast and different forces pressing against human lives. And this story is also very much about America, about race, about myth making, about performance, about the pressure placed on people who are expected to carry the spectacle forward, even when they see things the rest of the world refuses to acknowledge. I originally tried pitching this idea to some indie horror filmmakers. The more I did that, the more I realized something important, that I wasn't lacking creativity. What I lacked was the machinery of filmmaking. Writing has always been the place where I'm probably most at home. Once I embraced that, the story became exactly what it needed to be. And this book is dedicated to my friend Shawn. When Shawn and I first worked together, we barely spoke for the first month or so. We were both busy with our heads down, doing our own things. Then one day he came in wearing a yellow Dock Ellis shirt with rainbow colored hair printed on it. And that broke the ice immediately. I told him I was writing a horror story about that game. From there, he became one of my closest friends in a very short amount of time. And Shawn never sweated the petty stuff. Took that lesson to heart. We lost him not long ago, and He's missed every day. This book carries his name, and I'm very proud of that. And I hope he and his family are as well. Now, before I show you the cover, I want you to hold this image in your mind. Picture Dock Ellis on the mound. The seams on the baseball, they're not still. The strike zone stretches and contracts. The crowd hums like electricity. The chalk lines vibrate. Something ancient's paying attention. Something is leaning in, curious. The game continues because it always does, even when reality itself starts to bend. That's the world of Seams of the Infinite. And now I want to show you that cover. Here is the cover for Seams of the Infinite.
The history of Major League Baseball, a few names stand out with unusual clarity. Dock Ellis is one of them. He was a pitcher with presence you could feel before he even stepped on the mound. He challenged hitters, he challenged society, and at times he seemed to challenge reality itself. He wore the uniform of the Pittsburgh Pirates in the early 1970s, sharing the field with men whose legacies now feel carved into stone. Roberto Clemente, whose humanity was as fierce as his talent. Willie Stargell, whose power could tilt the mood of an entire stadium. They were giants in a bright era of the game. And on June 12, 1970, Dock Ellis did something that did not belong to ordinary life. He threw a no-hitter while high on LSD. 9 innings, no hits. A performance that refuses to sit quietly on a shelf of sports history. Doc spoke years later about what he saw that night. Colors that moved like living things, faces that stretched at the edges, moments where he could not tell if the crowd was cheering or whispering, moments where he sensed a presence beyond the lights, as if the world around him had widened. People call it the drug. It's easier that way. Easier to believe the strange came from inside his mind, not from whatever stood outside the glow of the stadium lamps. But every now and then, a human being finds himself in a place where the familiar rules falter. A place where the sky feels too large. A place where a man realizes he is very small and that something vast is watching without interest or mercy. A place where the boundaries of the world grow thin enough that something older may reach through. That feeling is the quiet heartbeat beneath this story. Not monsters, not jump scares. Just the cold understanding that the universe is wider than we pretend, and sometimes a single moment can reveal that terrifying scale. And on that June night, Doc stood at the center of it. This is Seams of the Infinite, Volume 1. A descent into the dark horizon that pressed against that famous game and the presence that stepped forward when a pitcher's mind opened at the wrong moment. January 23rd, 2026, the story begins where the diamond ends. Walk into the light and look forward. The dark is waiting beyond it.
Man, Christian did a hell of a job with that. So good, man. So I want to take a moment with it. You know, the image captures distortion, pressure, in the sense that something is pushing through the fabric of the moment. It blends sports mythology with cosmic dread. Christian absolutely nailed the tone of the story with his design. Now, signed paperback pre-orders for Seams of the Infinite are available now at ljpbooks.com. We'll leave the link in the comments. These are signed copies, and they'll ship once the book officially releases. Thank you again for being here tonight. That's the official reveal. I'll hang around a little while for anybody who wants to chat, ask questions, or talk about the book, Dock Ellis, cosmic horror, or anything else on your mind. The first thing that comes to my mind is how we're not trying to retell the Dock Ellis story with this book. We're not here to repeat things that people already know. These are well-known facts. The legend of the no-hitter. It's pretty much impossible to retell in any different way. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to ask what if. There's a lot of hyperbole, there's a lot of, I guess you could say, metaphor in the story. Don't take it at face value. Don't dare take it at face value. I don't want to make this more than what it is either. At the end of the day, this is a story that I wanted to tell. A story that I feel like, Elizabeth, thank you very much. I appreciate you sticking with me. This would be an easy thing to ignore. Who really has time for anything, that's not their own, family just trying to survive out here. But you've supported me for a long time now, so I appreciate it. Thank you very much. RSN. I'm trying to think who that could be. Is that Rick? Is that the Memphis Menace Rick? There's a cat in his profile picture. It's got to be Rick. Is that you, Rick? You better answer me. But yeah, the story is a lot of hyperbole. We really embellish this thing, but I don't want it to go over anybody's head that he said, yes, this is Rick. Okay, good. Thanks for joining, Rick. Let me talk about Rick for a second. I used to work with Rick a few years ago at a kind of a healthcare type place. I helped set up his computer for his workstation. He was new. I was kind of on like a tech team, and became one of my best friends over the years. Then became a co-host on a podcast that we all did together. It was myself, the Memphis Menace Rick. We ended up calling you the Memphis Maniac, I guess, didn't we? Because we wanted to go with the XFL team from Memphis. We had Final Girl Casey, and of course the godfather of Droll, James. Our show was called Slashers and Screamers. We would just basically rip off How Did This Get Made, but we only did horror films. Take turns picking a film every week, and we talk about how ridiculous the film was, because I always say horror is, bad horror is so much better than bad any other genre, and yeah, Rick knows what's up. Yeah, Rick's a hell of a guy. About as good a heart as you can find in anybody. But yeah, going back to the story. I talked to a guy named Dean Jacobs when I was doing the podcast Slasher Sports Cinema. He was there to, I guess, further the crowdfunding for his film The Trip. And The Trip was kind of a horror film where another guy is kind of hallucinating on, I think it was on mushrooms. And I just enjoyed the presence of Dean Jacobs, and I liked the story that he had put together. And he wrote, directed, and starred in this film. Again, it's called The Trip. Go look for it. It's a quality film. But I started thinking about it. He being a Pittsburgh guy. Dock Ellis, man. How do you not think about trippiness in Pittsburgh and not think about Dock Ellis? The first person that I threw this to was Dean. I said, hey man, I've got an idea about cosmic horror. What if Dock Ellis was seeing just crazy apparitions out on the mound? And kind of went through what my thoughts were. And of course, Dean being a busy guy, he wasn't going to make my film, right? He's busy making his own stuff. And that's why I say the more people I talk to, the more would say, well, why don't you do something with this? And we're talking about indie horror film guys. He's, the guys like Dean, guys like Ben Johnson, Ben Schatzel, guys that I look up to for, putting their neck out there to create a thing. And so I did that. I said, I'm not less creative. I don't have that muscle memory for filmmaking. And I'm not a filmmaker. I wouldn't know the first thing about making a film, but I've been writing my whole life. I can do that. I can definitely do that. So I sat down and I thought about Miss Mason, my 6th grade reading teacher. I guess you'd call it ELA now, English Language Arts, and how she used to make us outline a story rather, Roman numerals followed by numbers followed by letters. And I just forgot all about that. I couldn't sit and outline that right now, but I came up my own way and I outlined the story. And I did so by writing the final line of the book. And then I spent the rest of the time trying to chase that final line. It's a little unorthodox, but it's the way I operate. So this is what the book looks like. I hope you go out, give it a chance. And remember, it's only volume 1 from the dark archives of D. William Graves. Volume 1. So here's to volume 1, and here is to volume 100. Furthermore, if anybody has questions, comments, concerns, complaints, let me know. I'm happy to talk about this. Y si llegaron gente que habla español y que no me entienden ni papa, pues avísame. Coño la madre. Tienen que decir algo. They told me last night, or this morning rather, about last night. Look, man, I tuned in. I didn't understand a word you said. Should write about Barry Bonds. Listen. When I was a kid, that's my sister, by the way, so there's probably like insider information here. No mere stranger would have told me that. But when I was a young lad, Barry Bonds was, well, he was the closest thing to Hulk Hogan for me. He was my baseball hero. Did no wrong. Oh yeah, it's a long story, but we got time. That's all we got is time. I fell asleep in the Pittsburgh Pirates ball cap that my grandma got me. There's a picture in there somewhere. I just went to bed with it on. I thought it was the coolest thing. Might have been the first baseball cap that I owned that was a baseball team, and this was shortly after I became a fan. So, yeah, I should write a story about Barry Bonds, but man, it would never make the Hall of Fame if I did write it, even if it did deserve it. People have their opinions. Yeah, he was a roid head. His head grew 3 sizes larger than it was when, he was a full-grown adult. But, hey, think about that. The steroid era of baseball. And I don't want to talk about baseball too long here, but Major League Baseball profited from doing nothing about the steroid era. They made a lot of money off of Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds, Alex Rodriguez. The list goes on, Roger Clemens. But as soon as they start going after their money, that's when it becomes a problem. And now they want to keep people out of the Hall of Fame for using steroids, something that MLB did not care. They were happy to accept the money they got from the publicity, but now they want to punish the players who got them there. Yeah, it's cheating, but, they're entertainers. And entertaining, if you're not cheating, you're not trying, I guess. I don't know. I guess it's one of those things like, yeah, it's cheating and I accept it, but it's not something I'd accept for my kids, right? I don't know. But yeah, I was told this morning, it's like, listen, man, I tuned in last night. I didn't understand anything you were saying. You're going to have to do a version in Spanish. Well, I'm not going to do that. But I do have to leave them a message. Si están ahí y hablan español, me hablen aquí de una vez. Y si no hablan ahorita, que se callen para siempre. Que mañana no quiero escuchar nada. So anyway, I've probably kept you guys for long enough. It's been a 20-minute program. The last thing I'll leave you with is give the book a chance. Hopefully it strikes the chords that it was meant to strike. And hey, while you're at it, check out my other book, my first book, under the pen name Flaco Sol. It is titled Tico Goes to School. Look, that's me. That's me. But that's not what this is about, is it? Anyway, guys, thank you very much for showing up. I appreciate everybody who's here and who's not. But give me a follow, and I'll keep you guys in the loop all along the way. Thank you very much, and adios. What's it say? There you go. Books and baseball. Bears, Beats, Battlestar Galactica, books, and baseball. And Billy, I love alliteration. Good night, everybody.